Well, that's a good deed done for the day, ladies and gents. Welcome to the Rebuild episode 4, maybe. Just saved a bird that had fallen over in the road, unfortunately, or fell off a branch or was hit. So I just moved it off into the side brush. Anyway, welcome to the Garth Mountain, ladies and gents. Is it a mountain? Is it a hill? I guess you have to watch the movie to find out. I know you're thinking, Ryan, why are you walking up the Garth Mountain? Well, to be fair, I haven't walked up here since I moved back, which is odd. I was up here in November when I moved back. I'm sorry, not when I moved back, when I came home last year to sort of figure out what the fuck I was going to be doing. And it's officially been 6 months now that I've been officially back in the UK. Oh, this is different. This is new. Nice little egg thing here. I know the last time I was up here, they were building a house up here on the left and putting up a small holding, I think, which is pretty good. Good use of the area. So yeah, let's flash back to November when I came home. And basically I only came home to sort of decide, like I said, what the plan of action was, what I was actually going to do, whether I was going to go through with what I did, what I was thinking, what we had discussed. And yeah, so this is the first time, just because I've been exploring other parts of Wales. Like, as you know, I've been up in North Wales a lot if you follow me on social media. If you don't, links are below though if you want to follow. And I thought, you know what, let's go for a walk, because this is a 6-month video update, right, of the rebuild. So I was right. It looks like they are building something here, which is pretty cool, because this used to be right in front, used to be a like camping spot. Was it a camping spot? Actually, I don't think it was a camping spot, but it's now being turned into what appears to be a small holding, which makes a lot of sense. There's a tent there. I'm sure they're growing stuff, which is yeah, good. Turning it into sort of what it used to be, I guess. And then in front of me is where there is used to be an old farm building, and I'm pretty sure they have renovated that into, my assumption is, a house, but I haven't been up here in a while, so, but not a bad spot if you ask me. I mean, just look at the view. The house is directly in front, and you just have that. There you go, last farm right there. Beautiful. You know, it's pretty crazy, because the last time I was thinking about coming up here was the fire. I think it was in April. And you can definitely tell how long I haven't been up here for. This is way more overgrown than I thought ever. But I haven't been up here in a while, so yeah. Basically the path just goes up there to the top, and then you get the views. Like, you can already see Castle Hoch off in the distance. I mean, you want to know why I came back in November and came up here to make my decision? I think this helped, you know. Anyway, last time I made a video, don't get me wrong, I've been uploading to social media, I've been uploading to YouTube Shorts primarily. The last video you saw of me discussing this was when I was at Merthyr Mawr, but I have since uploaded a video where I was in Thailand, just to sort of bridge the gap a little bit. But it's been 2 months since I made a rebuild video. So yeah, ladies and gents, I just checked. 25th of November was when I was last up here on this mountain. at 8:30 a.m. discussing and just thinking about what the fuck I was going to do. And fast forward to now, July 2nd, it is nearly 7 p.m. and I'm sat in the exact same spot as I was then. So Ryan, it's been 6 months since you've been back. Did you make the right decision? Yes. Yes, I did. Now, obviously, it doesn't come easy, right? It does come with some hardship and some big adjustments. Like everybody who I've spoken to and I've discussed this with, the reality is that like coming back to a place that you sort of knew, but like at the same time grew away from, but didn't grow like above and beyond, right? Like there's so much opportunity here in Wales and in the UK that I think a lot of people just aren't like aware, right? Because like even now I'm still seeing videos on YouTube saying Brits leave the UK now, leave the UK, move abroad, like you know, there's a better life elsewhere. And look, I can't disagree with that because obviously that is what I initially thought, right? And I watched a podcast the other day and it was Michael Thirst. I think that's his name, Michael Thirst. First things first. Thurston is his name, I guess. And, he was interviewing Chris Williamson. And Chris Williamson's obviously moved now to Texas, Austin, Texas. Just because obviously his platform, he can go anywhere. And obviously, I think it's Michael Thirst is in Dubai. And a lot of people are moving to Dubai and a lot of people are moving elsewhere away from the UK for a better life. Now, obviously, granted, not everybody's in a position where they can do that, right? And as I mentioned previously on one of my videos, I was like, look, I think everybody needs to leave where they're from initially unless you're very, very, very content. And in the last video, I said I'd give you updates, frequent updates. Well, I have some big updates, ladies and gents. So, regarding work, let's start there, shall we? Because I think that's a big one for me is that like now I'm in a position where I can sort of say I've accepted a position, in similar field as to what I was in the US, slightly different, but I'm very much looking forward to it. And now I'm not going to say just yet what it is because there's still like one or two steps left in that process before I'm like officially in, even though technically I'm in, but it's pretty epic. It's a big step for me because I know down the line, initially it's going to be a little bit of a grind, but down the line I'm going to be far more ahead, believe it or not, than what I was in the US. And that's really all just like a mindset shift, right? In perception and reality and what's out there. Now, granted, I think I applied for 15, 20 different positions, shortlisted for 4 of them, interviewed for 3 of them. 2 of them, I was literally like second choice. And then for the one that I got, it was whittled down from like 1,000 to about 20, for like an in-person on the day sort of group interview assessment, and then whittled down to 3. And I was one of the 3. And that's huge for me because I think that was one of the first things that I had to sort of do outside of, discussing like the green card, the car and everything like that, getting a job and a career path that I was on anyway in the US, but here in the UK, I think is pivotal to sort of how I see my life going and rebuilding the life that I had back here in Wales. And hopefully I'll be in a position soon where I can discuss further and discuss more and go into details and all that jazz. Unfortunately, I was in a position where I was able to sort of, like I said in the last video, take my time in figuring out exactly what it was that I wanted to do, not jumping into something straight away just for the sake of jumping into something, because I feel like a lot of people do that. And I was in a very fortunate position, like I said, where I didn't have to do that. I could wait, bide my time. And it seems like the perfect opportunity arose. I went for it and I've got it.
But on the flip side of that, like one thing I will say and one thing that I have noted is I think there are far more opportunities in the US in the field that I was in compared to back here in the UK. Now, there's not to say that there wasn't jobs, right? Because there was. I applied for a lot. And I think that I could have, if I really wanted to, got a job a lot sooner. But I think the perfect timing on this one, because of the nature of it and sort of the trajectory that I see it going in and where it'll put me in 5-10 years time down the line as well. And I know not everybody can afford to wait, right, for that perfect sort of opportunity to come. I get it. I'm very fortunate for that and that I was able to wait and sort of make the decision when I did. So that's the job front. What about finances? Let's discuss. Not everybody wants to talk about it. I understand, right? Uh, Still putting money aside each month out of my main account, my main savings, right? That I was fortunate to accrue in the US. And I'm slowly starting to sort of rein in my spending just because, not that it's dwindling, but just so I can get more into, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to have each month. This is how I'm going to split it between savings, investing, um, and fun money, right? I've been looking a lot at sort of budgeting videos. There's a couple in the UK that I've found that are really interesting. And they discuss sort of their investments, their dividends, their income, how they budget it, what sort of apps, platforms they use. So I will probably make a video on that down the line in the near future. All I'll say right now is that currently I am putting away, around £200 a month into an investment portfolio. Like I said, my own private sort of pension, just sort of stuff that I learned whilst I was in the US. And like I said, I'm not a financial expert or advisor or anything like that, but this is just stuff that I've learned personally and also doing some self-studying. So that's going to set me up for the future. And that's just money that I'm putting away. I'm not even looking at it, not even going to pull from it at any stage for the next 10, 15, 20 years, hopefully. Right. And that should be a nice nest egg down the line. And I'm not saying that to show off or showboat or anything, because trust me, it's not a lot of money right now. But through compounding interest and stuff, had a look at things like Monzo, different sort of accounts that you can get. And then, so yeah, obviously taking effect. So I've been paying attention recently to the sort of budget and the news that the government have been putting out, because obviously they're discussing sort of, I guess, the cash ISA or the ISA amount. So that's been of interest lately, because I feel like that's such an underutilized, avenue for a lot of people, right, to save and invest and whatnot. And there's been a lot of talk lately, and I made a few videos about sort of like air conditioning units on TikTok, right, and then social media, because obviously we're in the summer months now, and a lot of people were discussing sort of financing and like how can they not afford to buy one and whatnot. I was like, look, financial literacy is something that is not truly taught in the UK in comparison to the US, and I feel like if I can sort of help with that, then I'm absolutely going to as well. And then, as previously discussed in the last sort of episode where I was at Merthyr Mawr, discussing the LISA scheme, which is the government scheme, which used to be the Help to Buy scheme, but is now the cash or the lifetime ISA scheme. Still utilizing that. Obviously, each year you get £4,000 to put in, and then you get a 25% government bonus, and that can be used for a first-time house buying scheme under the value of, I think it's £425,000. Don't go, I could be wrong on that, but I think it's that. Or for your pension, right? And I think you can utilize that up to the age of 39. So I still have 5 years left of that, right? Obviously, that's not the plan to keep putting money away into that, because I'd like to buy a house relatively, I don't want to say relatively soon, but my current situation is livable for like a year and a half to 2 years. So I'm going to maximize that opportunity and save as much as I can. Granted, not everybody's in a position to do that. Granted, not everybody wants to do that. But again, I was humble enough to sort of realize that making the big move back from the US to the UK, I have to sort of put myself in a position where I'm not living by myself yet, just because financially it doesn't make sense. And I'm not in a position where I can yet. But don't get me wrong, I will make separate videos on all of this because I feel like I'm just trying to cover and recap sort of what's happened since the last video to now, right? So I will go over sort of how much money I have in my investments, my LISA, and then hopefully I'll be in a position where I can discuss budgeting each month. Even though I wasn't necessarily the best at budgeting, I feel like I have to be good at it this time around because I feel like I need to become financially more responsible, right? Even though I've been good, don't get me wrong, I've been good most of my life. I feel like now is the time where I have to sort of focus in, dial in, and make sure that like I'm not recklessly spending. So we've discussed career path, which hopefully I'll be able to discuss soon. Finances, financial aspect of things. Hopefully I'll be able to discuss and go into further detail with you on that down the line. What next? Just living life, enjoying life, seeing as much of Wales as possible, exploring more, and just trying to enjoy it. Because I feel like a lot of people who are in my position, or not necessarily in my position, where they're like, leave the UK. I feel like they take the UK for granted, and I never want to be in a position where I take the UK for granted, or in fact Wales, right? I'm out exploring. I made a video on social media on TikTok regarding like Newborough Beach, Newborough Forest, and exploring there. I went to the Tŷ Coch. I'm going other places around Wales, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I had a few comments on my last video regarding sort of the rebuild about like comparisons and making videos discussing the US versus the UK on certain things. And I will definitely be going into that. And then so now I think the next part of the rebuild that I want to show you is sort of where we're progressing in terms of the room and my own personal space back in the house. So let's go back, shall we? Now, a few hours have passed since I left the mountain to show you this. But ladies and gents, this is the reality. Currently putting together the second Malm drawer in dark grey. I've just built this one first. I've got to build this one. And I still obviously have to do the drawers there as well. But yes, let me finish building this. We'll sit down. We'll have a chat. But ladies and gents, last night I showed you the IKEA setup and whatnot. Unfortunately, when I moved the second one, I broke one of the things on the front of the IKEA Malm drawers. So now I have to go to IKEA, pick up a spare part, re-put it together, and then we'll sit down and then we'll discuss. All right, let's go see if I can find this part, shall we? Rebuild. It's quite funny actually, because obviously now I have to rebuild the Malm drawer desk, chest of drawers that I snapped while I moved it. So it's kind of funny that the rebuild requires me to go to IKEA, which is where I'm at now, get a small little piece of dark grey wood and rebuild the drawers. Great success. Apparently I didn't know that you could do that, but that is fantastic that you can, because now I have two just in case it happens again. Anyway, let's go home and put that desk together, and then I'll talk about it. So ladies and gents, this is one of the realities of being humble enough to be like, okay, big decisions are being made, time to move back home, time to move back into your parents' house, and sort of, deal with the consequences and the repercussions of that. The consequences aren't that terrible, really. I don't have to pay rent. I don't have to, worry about paying for a mortgage anytime soon. But the reality is sort of
you move into a space that isn't yours. Going from having a house that, you know, was yours, multiple rooms to go to, you had designated office space, separate bedrooms, you know, a garage, all that stuff where everything was nice and organized, to moving back in to a parent's house or, you know, a relative's house. But again, I'm very fortunate that I'm able to do so, right? I know a lot of people aren't. But this is the reality. So obviously the drawers are now built, both of them. I've fixed the beam, right? Obviously you saw that I was in IKEA earlier, got the second one if I ever need it. But yeah, this is the rebuild, ladies and gents. We're in the attic space. Like I said, I still got to put the drawers together, which are back there for both sets. But eventually that will mean I get the clothes out of my suitcases, put them away. Office is set up anyway. And if I do decide to fully come up into this room, there's plenty of space for a double bed. I know it doesn't look like it, but there is, so it's all good. It will just be very cozy. And I know you're thinking, Ryan, why don't you rent a place, for example? And trust me, it was something that I did consider and I did think about, but I was like, look, the reality is not in a position where I would want to rent, right? Because to me, renting is, you're not building equity, you're just spending money basically to live somewhere. Which is fine, like if that's what you want to do, you want to, but I did that for 6 years, right? So in this moment of time that I'm rebuilding, and like I feel like a lot of people aren't humble enough potentially to want to do that, to like take those big steps, because it is big step going backwards, right? If you think about it, you've had your own space, you go, you know, big life decision happens and you move back home and you have to move in with your parents. A lot of people would fucking hate that. Don't get me wrong, initially I hated the thought of it as well, but then I was thinking, hang on, cash flow, long term, I've got money set aside for a house deposit. I start my new job in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Actually had the starting email letter today about when I want to start. So gonna take another week to 10-day trip at the end of July as a segue into starting that job again, you know, just starting work again. So I was thinking, no, why would I want to rent and spend money? It's basically dumping money to do what I did for the past 6 years, where now I'm in a fantastic position where fortunately I'm able to have a room / 2 rooms that are my space, but this will probably just be, I'll consolidate into this one room. So I'm, you know, out the way, I'm happy, it's decorated the way I want. You know, I've got the furniture that I want, the setup is gonna be nice, it's gonna be cozy, it's gonna be, you know, how I want it. And I just figured rental prices realistically for an apartment or a house for myself, it just doesn't make any financial sense. At least not yet, because I will eventually want to buy a property for myself. So yeah, rebuild, desks are done, we're up in the attic, and yeah, that is the reality, ladies and gentlemen. And so you're probably thinking, okay, so you start your job in 6 to 8 weeks. What is your job? Can you discuss it? I don't want to sort of delve into the company that I'll be working for. I'll probably be able to do that very soon, don't get me wrong, but I just want to make sure everything's kosher first before I start like discussing it and whatnot. But the job title is officially a quantity surveyor, but it's an apprentice program. And I know you're thinking, why would you do that? Well, my thinking is that in order to get to the salary band that I was on in the US as just an estimator, right? I did some research. It's not hard. Google, Glassdoor, whatever. You look on LinkedIn, for example, and it will tell you the salaries of the positions that you're in, right? And you compare it to what you were on in the US, for example. I know salaries are inflated in the US, right? In most positions, most work positions. And so I was like, right, okay, in order to get to here, this is what I need to do. This is where I need to be. I need a degree in quantity surveying, which is what I'll get. I won't be in debt. I won't have student loans. I paid off my old student loan, my old degree. Hindsight, a bit silly now, but it's all good. So I'm debt free, right? I won't have any debts for this degree that I'll be doing. And in 5, 6, 7, 8 years time, I'll be on far more money than I was earning in the US, which is mind-boggling to me, but that's the reality. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully I'll be able to discuss more on that. I'll be able to discuss more on finances, budgeting, like I've said, and just sort of life in general. Yeah, we're getting there. We are getting there. I know it seems like, if you follow me on social media, that it seems life is easy for me, but in the reality, it is and it isn't. Right? The reality is that it has been difficult. It's been a huge adjustment, and it's not been plain, straightforward, and easy as it appears. Right? Just because obviously I'm showing you what I want you to see on social media, as is everybody else. So anyway, that's enough from me. That's the rebuild done. If you have any questions, leave them below, comment below. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. I very much appreciate it. I'd love to hit 1,000 subscribers at some stage in the near future. And we'll go from there. So diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.